murdered by a mob due to a land wrangle somewhere in Gomba. We'll be sharing more on that. But for now, good morning, Chantal Olive.
Good morning, Olive. How are you feeling today?
I'm great. How are you?
Christmas spirits are high since you're closer to the Christmas tree this morning.
Yes.
Well, good morning, ABC viewers. Thank you for waking up with us every single morning. My name is Chantal Olive Akandinda, and welcome to the show.
Well, good morning and welcome to the show once again, Jerome Paul.
Yes, good morning to you and good morning to our dear viewers. It is Tuesday, 5 days to Christmas, 5 days of us celebrating with family, friends, and if it's 5 days to Christmas, you also realize it's 10 days to the New Year. So I still want to urge Ugandans and caution them as well when it comes to driving during this festive season. Every now and then you do realize people are rushing, overspeeding. My question is though, where are they rushing to? Because when you look at how many people are being knocked, especially around 7 to 9 p.m. in the night, you wonder why are people rushing yet they're just heading back home. But also looking at it in a way of, getting to a situation of, let's say, putting law in order or putting order into the world that we are in today. Court confirmed 78 charges against a former LRL leader, that is Koyelo. That is a man who was a former commander of the Lord's Resistance Army that was also terrorizing the Ugandans, especially those in northern Uganda. So when you come to think of the Sobi issue, this is also something that Ugandans should as well have information about.
Well, like I said, Sobi, the man that was allegedly murdered by a crowd yesterday, was the former commander of a group known as Chifesi. Now, if you know the areas of Kawempe, Bwaise, and of course, if you heard of a gang that used to terrorize motorists along the northern bypass, then this group, this man was heading, and I personally have seen him on different media channels saying that, talking about the things they used to do, the crime they used to commit with his group. He would be hired to terrorize people, and yesterday, unfortunately for him, some people terrorized him. Good morning, Chirabo.
A lovely morning to you. The last time I was at the Africa Prayer Mountain for All Nations in Seguku, I raised my hands before heavens and I told God, how long will evil prevail untamed in our country? Now, yesterday when I received that news, a scripture came to me, and I'll say it in Uganda because in my Sunday school teacher used to teach us in Uganda. It says, Oya alisse chitala, alifa chitala. Translate.
Yes. The one that kills by the sword will die by the sword.
So, that is what I can say about the death of Sobi. But also the challenge of how impunity is thriving. That someone has a criminal gang that goes on people's land, not to solve problems but make matters worse, and he's come to an end. But away from Sobi, yesterday there was also another interesting story at Parliament, where we saw former speakers get cars. Now, Sonko, I know this would be your dream car. A car of over 500 million.
Yes.
These are 5 vehicles, very comfortable. Last year we saw the amendment of the Parliamentary Pensions Act, or law. Each of these people is going to choose a driver of their choice, and Parliament will be paying that driver. In case of mechanical conditions, these cars are going to be repaired by Parliament. After 5 years, they'll be getting new cars. And one thing that comes to my mind, another scripture comes to my mind. Oyo alina akatono kali mujiwako. Oyo alina ebingi aliyongerwako. Translate.
Oh, good. I'm going to direct translate of the person that has a little, even the little they have will be taken away from them, and the one that has plenty will be added more.
Now, the Ugandans that have little, most of the voters, those that go under the sun, it seems the little they have is being taken away from them because they're taxpayers. And those that have, you can't just speak of parliament. These guys have had wheels of cash.
Also, my
one
concern.
of my I reached at one's place, one of our first speakers, Haji Moses Chigongo. I saw a fleet of wonderful cars.
You know,
Also,
my concern though is going to go to the Ministry of Finance. At the start of this financial year, we had them coming out to reveal that we are going to be having budget cuts. Which means if you're going to be having budget cuts, they have to prioritize. I remember the permanent secretary to the Treasury putting it straight that he's a preacher of the economics that works. And he did put it out there that we are going to be prioritizing the key sectors of the economy or key things that affect the country. That is where the money is supposed to be heading to. And by the look of things here, even when you look at how the public reacted to this same information, most of them were trying to understand where is this money coming from, and then also why is it that
necessary?
Why are we going against what we had set out at the start of the day? So it is something that again is more concerning and worrying for the state of the country as much, but well, we wait and see how this will continue.
Also
what are we waiting to see?
Also, there is nothing to wait and see.
We need to wait
But also concerning.
It's like police says we are still investigating.
No,
certain things are new.
The other point of concern for me is some of these people are, like for instance, the former speaker Rebecca Kadaga is a deputy prime minister, meaning that office already gives her a car and it already gives her certain allowances, and she's still a member of parliament, okay? So if you're giving these people all these things, yet they already have enough, where are we losing the line here? It feels like we are losing the line
amended
as
the law
a country.
through parliament. Our members of parliament approved this.
Now think about it like this. It could be things they are entitled to according to the offices they once held. For example, if you're a former president, you have these privileges or these things that you are supposed to get. Now, I think where we don't draw the line is we don't get to distinguish between those who are still in office in different positions. When you look back at where they were, there should be now guidelines in the middle there that guide what happens in such scenarios, and I think that's where we are. That's where we have.
And I think that's the point of contention for most Ugandans. Of these people are already serving, they are already entitled to certain things currently, and you're giving them cars because they served. Why don't you give them cars when they are no longer serving? That would make more sense.
When I look at a number of them,
president as well.
Edward Chiwanuka Sekandi, former vice president, I think he received his car for the vice president after. So now we got a second one. I saw Haji Moses Chigongo, he's not in service.
Those who are not in service,
we must accept that legally there is nothing wrong.
Yes.
On the moral ground, that is where there could be a problem.
There is a
moral and economic.
No law has been broken, but for a country that is struggling financially, we need to put our expenditure in order.
That is something we can all agree upon, by the way. And when you look at the states into which we need certain changes, especially from the health perspective, you look at the transportation of the country, especially with the state of the roads, and when we seek for these particular funds, you do realize the Treasury will say, we do not have enough of the money.
3 billion, not 2.5.
So when you look at the same situation when money is being diverted to the others, I think this is where even these former leaders can as well come together to say that if I am getting this vehicle, I'm just saying as well, that if I'm getting this vehicle and I'm not in need of it because I already have other privileges related to the other offices I've been working, because most of these people have worked for other offices still in government, and they still have privileges after
that
leaving,
come with those offices.
after leaving those offices. So that means if they go on to receive the same privileges from all offices, who will benefit?
It's more like if you've held 5 positions. Let's say you've been vice president, you've been speaker of parliament, you've been a member of parliament, you've been a deputy, like you've had all these offices, you've held all these offices in a span of, let's say, 10 years or even 15 or 20. And for each office, you're entitled to, let's say, a car, maybe a house. Now, of course, no one is getting a house, but I'm just giving an example. And at the end of the day, all these offices are supposed to give you all these things, but you're one person. Shouldn't there be maybe a law of sorts that says, in as much as you've been in this office, you can only get one thing at a given time?
That's what I was telling you, that legally, these people are entitled because they served.
Yes.
However, where we have a gap is when do we draw the line on if you're still holding a public office, you are not supposed to get these benefits until you leave. Or if you leave one public office and join the other, maybe what prevails over the rest is this particular one.
The highest office
Thank you. We can have an arrangement, or we can have it organized a certain way that is also fair, so that we also reduce on how long people stay. Because if someone now has to gauge, if I join another public office, I'm likely to lose this, so let me maybe probably step down or something like that. It's controls, and I think that's what we need at the moment.
Checks and balances.
Yes.
Anyway, speaking of checks and balances, let's see what we have gathered for you in the news this morning.
Well, I'll begin with President Yoweri Museveni, who yesterday met and held discussions with a delegation from Azerbaijan, led by Special Envoy and Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs. In the meeting held at State House Entebbe, the delegation briefed the President about the preparation for the forthcoming Non-Allied Movement NAM Summit. Uganda will host the 19th NAM Heads of State Government Summit, a forum of 120 member states, from the 15th to the 20th of January 2024, where President Museveni will take over the presidency and will lead the second biggest group of countries after the United Nations. The meeting was attended by Uganda's ambassador and permanent representative to the UN, Adoniya Ayebare, among other officials.
Simon Mondei, the immigration spokesperson, has stated that all officers operating on the borders between Uganda and Congo have been informed about the lifting of visa requirements for travelers within the two countries. This will enable Congolese to easily cross into Uganda and vice versa, facilitating smooth operations. The visa requirement is set to end this year, 2023.
And now, the Speaker of Parliament, Anita Amongi, handed over 5 new cars to former Speakers of Parliament, including Professor Edward Lugumayo, Francis Butagira, Alhaji Moses Chigongo, and Edward Chiwanuka Sekandi. The cars costed 2.5 billion Uganda shillings, each costing 700 million. The Speaker said Parliament will cater for fuel costs, maintenance and salaries of drivers.
And lastly, in our local news, relevant parties expected to take part in the January 2024 Non-Allied Movement and G7 plus China summits have been on test practice for the arrival of dignitaries expected to start arriving in the country by 7th January 2024. The test practice at Entebbe Airport focused mainly on the receiving protocols of the heads of delegations, who include presidents, vice presidents, among others. Well, that does it for the local news. Now Chantal Olive takes us through the international news.
Internationally, we are starting from China. This morning, at least 111 people have been killed and another 220 injured following an earthquake on Monday night in northwest China, state media reported. The quake struck Gansu province around midnight, damaging buildings there and in the neighboring Qinghai province. The U.S. Geological Survey said the quake had a magnitude of 5.9 and depth of 10 kilometers or 6 miles. Chinese President Xi Jinping has ordered full rescue efforts Emergency workers are braving freezing weather to try and help people in the rural region, one of China's poorer areas. Temperatures are below 13 degrees Celsius or 8.6 degrees Fahrenheit, local media reported. Gansu lies between the Tibetan and Luz plateaus and borders Mongolia. The quake struck Linxiahu Autonomous Prefecture and administrative region for China's Muslim Hui people. Footage showed rescuers searching through the rubble of collapsed buildings. Debris was also seen on the floors of rooms whose ceilings had partially collapsed. Moving on, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin announces the formation of a coalition including Bahrain, Canada, France, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, the Seychelles, Spain and the UK to patrol the Red Sea in response to Houthi attacks. Israeli strikes have been reported across the Gaza Strip overnight, leading to more Palestinian deaths. Medical sources told Medical sources told Al Jazeera that Israeli forces raided the Al-Ahli hospital in Gaza City. The UN Security Council is expected to vote on a new resolution today after the use of the term cessation of hostilities emerged as a sticking point. At least 19,453 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli attacks since October 7th. The revised death toll in Israel stands at 1,140. Egypt's President Abdul Fattah al-Sisi has won a third sixth-year term with 89.6% of the vote, the Electoral Commission has announced. The former army chief beat three low-profile candidates, with the runner-up securing only 4.5%. Leading opposition candidate Ahmed Tantawi had pulled out months before last week's poll, claiming intimidation and violence against his campaigning camp. Egypt's faltering economy and the war in Gaza were key electoral issues. Mr. Sisi, who is 69, first became president in 2014, a year after he led the military's overthrow of his Islamist predecessor, Mohamed Morsi. Mr. Sisi won again in 2018. The victory in the latest election means he will be in power until 2030, when he is barred by the constitution from running again. Under his leadership, huge sums of money have been spent on big infrastructure projects. Speaking matters climate, using coal for power may be a 19th century technology, but it's still heavy in use in the 21st, for now at least. The International Energy Agency reported last week that global demand for fossil fuel hit an all-time high this year. The agency estimates that demand grew 1.4% last year, driven by a higher demand in China and India, as well as decreased output from hydroelectric plants. That said, while coal use may hit an all-time high, it's likely also nearing the peak of its use. The IEA estimates that demand will drop next year and plateau until 2026 before beginning a slow decline, even if governments do not try to crack down its use, thanks to major drops in coal consumption in the US and Europe, as well as expected rebounds in hydropower in India and China. That is it for climate news and what is happening in the different parts of the world.
Now, before Jerome Paul Sonko takes us through the local dailies, there is a news story that I would like for us to share. And it is that Pope Francis has allowed priests to bless same-sex couples. This is a significant advance for LGBT people in the Roman Catholic Church. The leader of the Roman Catholic Church said priests should be permitted to bless same-sex and irregular couples under certain circumstances. The Vatican, however, says blessings should not be part of the regular church rituals or related to civil unions or weddings. And it added that it continues to view marriage as between a man and a woman. And it also noted that in the Catholic Church, a blessing is a prayer or plea usually delivered by a minister asking for God to look favorably on the person or people being blessed. Well, Jerome Paul Sonko, what do you have for us this morning?
Now from the New Vision this morning, highlighting Maje's government to pay affected staff 180 billion Ugandan shillings, 2,200 workers to lose jobs in rationalization program. Then education, government deploys 1,400 new teachers. Then also First Lady launches her way for fostering ICT in institutions. Former speakers gifted with cars as Mobaje Oster sparks controversy, that is in the Muslim news. Then you can as well read about more from the Daily Monitor. Incest cases, stole passport issuance, that is in the Daily Monitor. Court confirms 78 charges against ex-LRA rebel Koyeko. Then a pictorial of the 3 billion vehicles for former speakers of parliament that were given out yesterday. Government also scraps visa fees for all Congolese nationals. Man shows up for passport applications with snake in bag. Then also stop press, Sobi killed in Gomba land fight, according to what police has actually revealed. Then besides that, we look at what is making headlines away from Uganda. The Daily Nation, Kenya's most sought after high school Form 1 selection, some top performers missed out on preferred schools. Then you can as well read about the Vatican now okays all leaves blessings for gay couples, but with a caveat. Then also, I can't verify 12.5 billion telecom share purchase, says Gathungu. Then Makomen urges caution on roads this festive season. Then Kenya wards region as it inches closer to EU deal. Lastly, the Citizen newspaper from Tanzania, Samia pledges action on ETS, dollars and power. Then winners, losers as NHIF adjust rates. Then also, the General Congress plan to boost its share of East African community trade. What Kenya and EU trade deal means, that is also with the Citizen this morning. So that's it from our press review as well.
Thank you, Jerome Paul. Now, we leave you with Ed Sheeran and Sir Elton John with Merry Christmas.
So when you come to think of the Sobi issue, this is also something that Ugandans should as well have information about.
Well, like I said, Sobi, the man that was allegedly murdered by a crowd yesterday, was the former commander of a group known as Chifesi. Now, if you know the areas of Kawempe, Bwaise, and of course, if you heard of a gang that used to terrorize motorists along the northern bypass, then this group, this man was heading. And I personally have seen him on different media channels saying that, talking about the things they used to do, the crime they used to commit with his group. He would be hired to terrorize people, and yesterday, unfortunately for him, some people terrorized him. Good morning, Chirabo.
A lovely morning to you. The last time I was at the Africa Prayer Mountain for All Nations in Seguku, I raised my hands before heavens and I told God, how long will evil prevail untamed in our country? Now, yesterday when I received that news, a scripture came to me, and I'll say it in Uganda because in my Sunday school teacher used to teach us in Uganda. It says, "Oyalise chitara, alifa chitara." Translate.
Yes. The one that kills by the sword will die by the sword.
So, that is what I can say about the death of Sobi. But also the challenge of how impunity is thriving. that someone has a criminal gang that goes on people's land, not to solve problems but make matters worse, and he's come to an end. But away from
Northern Uganda. So when you come to think of the Sobi issue, this is also something that Ugandans should as well have information about.
Well, like I said, Sobi, the man that was allegedly murdered by a crowd yesterday, was the former commander of a group known as Chifesi. Now, if you know the areas of Kawempe, Bwaise, and of course, if you heard of a gang that used to terrorize motorists along the northern bypass, then this group, this man was heading. And I personally have seen him on different media channels saying that, talking about the things they used to do, the crime they used to commit with his group. He would be hired to terrorize people, and yesterday, unfortunately for him, some people terrorized him. Good morning, Chirabo.
A lovely morning to you. The last time I was at the Africa Prayer Mountain for All Nations in Seguku, I raised my hands before heavens, and I told God, how long will evil prevail untamed in our country? Now, yesterday when I received that news, a scripture came to me, and I'll say it in Uganda, because in my Sunday school teacher used to teach us in Uganda. It says, "Oyo alisse kitala, alifa kitala."
Was brought to you by MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Junko, yo, check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, it is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Junko, I thought I was one of your friends.
You are,
but you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief, and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government, designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Welcome back. This is Good Morning Uganda. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for keeping with us every single morning. We don't take that for granted. And in the spirit of Christmas, we hope that you're having a beautiful time with your family and friends. Some of you have already traveled, and if you're on your way right now and you're streaming live on your phone through our YouTube channel, we still appreciate that you're making sure that you keep yourself inspired, you keep yourself informed, because that's what we are here for, to keep you inspired, informed and entertained. That's our mandate as the national broadcaster. Now, this morning we would like to have a conversation about something many Ugandans talk about every single day. I don't know if there is a day that goes by where I do not see a news story or a Twitter engagement where people are not talking about corruption. So this morning we want to delve into that. Recently, at a function, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni said that the country would have achieved a lot of development, but corruption is deterring that. He said, we have put policies in place to ensure that the private sector thrives. There is a growth of development of infrastructure, and that many policies have been put in place to invite and entice investors into our country, but we still have corruption deterring us. Why do we have that? But also we have a new report saying that many Ugandans, about 78%, do not report corruption cases. Why is this? Why are Ugandans not reporting corruption cases? Yet we know, you and I know, that corruption is still a cancer in our society, in our country. And if the leader of our country himself is saying that we would have been far weren't it for corruption, then it means there is a problem. But why aren't we reporting corruption cases? Is this the reason why corruption keeps thriving in our nation, and how can we handle that? First of all, I would like for us to understand what corruption means and the different forms of corruption there is. Jerome Paul.
Well, corruption, let me just put it in a layman's language, includes or involves misuse of funds, bribes, and misappropriation of funds. This is if at all money is meant to be used for a certain project and then it is diverted to something less meaningful, then there is corruption in there. Or also misusing of funds in a way that if you're the accounting officer, you end up using those particular funds for your personal gains, maybe purchasing personal goods and the like. Then the element of bribery comes in, where it is a collective of all of us here, where you pay for a service that you are ideally supposed to receive for free, or you pay for a service in order to go against the law in one way or the other. For example, if you're caught and you're driving under the influence of alcohol and the only way to bail yourself out is to pay a traffic officer, then that is a bribe, and that is you contributing to the corruption kind of situation we are talking about. But then also when it comes to misallocation of the public funds into other projects, which is also very common amongst government officials, that is ideally putting it out there as corruption. Now, looking at also some of the types of the corruption, there is what we call the public versus private corruption. I think when we look at the public versus private corruption is where you do realize this may include a government official, dealing with a private person in order to swindle government funds or public funds for their own benefit. And then we also have the conventional versus unconventional corruption. There is grand versus petty corruption. The petty in here may be looked at as something that is not so huge and the like, in a situation where at times people would say that is a petty issue. I can pay or I can bail myself out. You've been arrested and you do not want to go to court. And then what you do is you pay out. You pay your way out Those are some of the petty, you know, examples of the...
It could also be there is a parking lot. You're not supposed to park there, but you give the askari 2,000 shillings
and then
so that you can park. It is still corruption.
So, you know, it's still corruption, however petty it may look like. And then there's the supply versus demand corruption. And this is influenced by quite a number, because it does look like the bigger part of it, the demand versus supply. At times there are people who realize that, let's say, to get a service that is only limited to a few, the only way to get it is to pay for it, because they do have the money. Or it is, either way, it is to make sure that others do not benefit.
To cut through the red tape sometimes.
Exactly. So you always want to make sure that you go faster than the rest. So in the long run, all the things you're doing in there, as long as they include money and then also limiting other people off the benefits of the same, you're contributing greatly to corruption. So this is where we are as a country. And also slightly, when you look at some of the rankings, Uganda was ranked 142nd among the 180 countries in the last index. Now, if you're ranked that way, it clearly shows that where the country is ranking last, it is perceived to be the most corrupt.
Actually, on Transparency International's 2022 Corruption Perceptions Index, Uganda scored 26 on a scale of from 0 to 100 among the most corrupt countries. And this is not good news. This puts us in a really terrible position. Now, someone will say, at least we are 42nd, we are not among the first 50. We are still on this ranking. And if we are 26 on a scale of 0 to 100, it means that as a country we are not doing well. So what challenges do we encounter as a country due to corruption?
Briefly, I was when Sonko was talking about the different forms of corruption, there was the part of nepotism.
Oh, yes.
There is nepotism, there is favoritism. Yes, there is abuse of discretion, there is networking. It has grown bigger.
Okay, Chantal, do you mind telling us what these words mean, nepotism, for instance? Because a viewer out there may know what it means when you explain it, but they may not understand what nepotism means.
Well, how do I put it? What is the easiest way I can use to define nepotism? I know you, Olive, for example. So you come to my office, I'm the procurement officer, for example, and I will make sure you get that job. That is nepotism. You're my sister. You're lobbying to provide a particular service or supply certain goods to an institution, and because I know you, I'm going to come and make sure that I lobby for you. I'll make sure that you take that bid. You win the bid.
I am Olive, and I come from Nakaseke, and we come from Nakaseke.
Thank you.
So I will give you a job. Yes. Because we come from the same area.
That is literally, without defining, without giving a particular definition, that is nepotism.
Okay.
Who do you know? I know you, so I will give you the job. I'll give you money. I'll do something. That is nepotism.
Limiting those who can ideally,
yes, my
be
company
better suited for that job.
Thank you. My company comes in and because you know my company, you're like, definitely Chantal has to take it. And by the way, note that in most cases, these companies are not even very competent. So what they do is they make sure the officers make sure that you who is coming in, because they know you are competent. And in most cases, it comes with a kickback as well.
Well, there was a report in the media a few months ago, I think, where it alleged that there is a research that was done, and it found that there are many Ugandans coming from a particular region occupying certain offices. So when I think about nepotism and what Chantal has described, that's what that kind of report comes to mind. And it is everywhere. You're going to find someone coming from, let's say, north or east or west or south, wherever, and they are going to favor certain people because we come from the same region. Yep. This has been tried and tested in different places. But now moving on, after we have unpacked what corruption corruption means and some of the examples of corruption that we have, I would like for us to look at some of the challenges or some of the deterrents corruption has on our growth as a country.
The President did highlight that it frustrates the investors, the potential investors, and I want to believe, I'll start with that as a point of, of preference to the viewers. When you look at the investors or the potential investors who come, not only, let's say, not only those local investors, but also those who come from other countries, the frustration comes in a situation where, for example, you are at, let's say, you're in for a government and public sort of partnership, the public-private partnerships, where there's a procurement bid. And the bidding process in most cases is where this level of corruption frustrates the investors. That at times, you do realize one investor may come in with the potential or with a serious business plan than the other. But simply because the other person is providing more money or has paid the other person, then they will definitely lose the deal. But not only that, we've also seen a couple of times where investors are also frustrated, and this is in regards to certain allegations that some of them fail to operate simply because a certain individual wanted, to have, let's say, a bigger share in their own company. And this is also with the local investors, where someone will come in and say, a certain government official from the office of this ministry said, for me to get a license to operate within this region or within the country, they will have to have shares, or I will have to give them shares for free into the company. Now remember, when it comes to the business perspective, you're not making money in there if you're just allowing in anyone to come through. So the other person who's going to buy them, their way into the hearts of this particular official, the chances are they will definitely win this particular deal. But then not only that, looking further, you look at the fact that it is also limiting the access to quality services as a country. When you look at the corruption cases that we have, especially that rotate around the services sectors or ministries in this country, you do expect that certain ministries that would be having quality services are highly affected by, one, the nepotism that you've mentioned, because there are people who are given jobs and they are not fit,
qualified,
or qualified for these jobs. So in such circumstances, you are affecting, or let's say the local or the taxpayer is actually affected by the decisions being made by the same.
Let's just say is being cheated.
Exactly. So when you also look at the Ministry of Health, for example, in instances where we've seen doctors going on riot, in situations where we've seen Ugandan patients crying out to government saying we do not have medication, or the quality of health services that we do have are very, are still of low standards. In most scenarios, when you are to trace back, you do realize that either way, the people who are responsible for bringing these services closer to the people were either indulging in some corruption cases or tendencies, and this affected the local Ugandan or the taxpayer in this regard. So as much as we look at even the quality of services, you look at how corruption takes us back as a country. And when it also comes to the development perspective, corruption deters or hinders the development of any nation, regardless of us being in Uganda talking about how the development is. Because I can only imagine if a procurement officer who is supposed to align or who is supposed to grant different ministries, or let's say financial accounting officers in different government ministries who are supposed to be signing on to this particular money going to different ministries, if they fail to do so and instead divert that money to their own accounts, then believe it or not, we shall be having all these issues of, you know, lagging behind in different developmental areas.
That's true. I've had incidents where people from a certain area will, for instance, complain about the nature of their road, the state of their road, and say they worked on the road, but they only put one layer instead of maybe 2 or 3 layers. And a few years down the road is basically being washed away every time there are rains, and then there are potholes, and now more money has to be released to repair a road that would maybe have been okay if money had not been put aside by people that are not, by unscrupulous people that decided to use it for their own betterment. But how does, so now speaking about that, it looks like there is a lot of corruption in government agencies and offices. But now we have a case. Ugandans are not reporting corruption cases. Okay? And corruption, when we speak about corruption, it's not just, like Sonko put it earlier, it is not just about government officers or government officials. It goes beyond. Even you, an individual, you're paying a bribe to a traffic officer. You're paying a bribe for the askari to let you into the bank when the bank has closed. But because you're seeing people inside, you give him a 5K so that he can let you into the premises so that you can make your banking. So we do it privately and, of course, publicly. And the question here is, since it seems like everyone is doing it and everyone has normalized it, could this be the reason why Ugandans are not reporting corruption cases?
Definitely. Think about it like this. One of the effects of corruption is lawlessness. And by lawlessness, what I mean is there is where corruption affects how politics run. The moment we get comfortable with knowing that we have our way around the law, then definitely we're going to get into a state of lawlessness, where we are not going to abide by the rules, where we're not going to abide by the laws, because we know we have our way around the laws. So it puts us in a state of comfort, and we know that I can figure my way out through here. I don't have to queue up here at this particular, maybe I'm just giving an example, at the IOV, at the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Internal Affairs. In the bank,
you have a friend who is a teller, you just make a call.
Thank you. So I don't have to queue. So what I have to do is call this person and tell them I'm withdrawing maybe say 100 million, and of that 1 million is yours, or 500 is yours, and that's enough. So if someone has their way around the law, then that leads to lawlessness. That leads to it seems convenient, but then we are not assessing the other effects it has on the rest of the people and the country at large. So yes, many people will not even come out to report because it favors them. Imagine the traffic officer called you and you're supposed to pay 200,000, but you can give them 20,000 Uganda shillings. What are you going to opt for? In most cases, if your integrity is in question, you're going to go and pay the 20,000 Uganda shillings and move without you getting a ticket. You understand? So that is exactly, those are some of the, that is one of the reasons I would really put out and say it's the reason as to why we are seeing people not reporting. But also, do remember that we've had cases where people are concerned about the safety or the security of what we call the whistleblowers, the ones that report these corruption cases.
Especially the big ones.
Thank you. So if someone is not sure if they're going to be protected, because you see, when it comes to how corruption works, barely will you find a corruption scandal that has only one person that executed.
That's true.
There's going to be a chain of people from the top to the bottom, in the middle there, or even the whole office will be involved in the corruption scandal. So the question is, who are you going to report to in that office that is going to protect you at the end of it all? That is a question for some of the people that would want to report. The other question would be, if I report, am I going to actually achieve results from my report? If I reported Chantal this morning that she was involved in a corruption scandal, is she going to be brought to book? Is she going to be punished? Am I going to see results? Is that money going to even be retrieved For example, are we going to see that money put to use where it was supposed to be? Now, those are questions that most Ugandans have, and as long as they are not answered, definitely you're going to see a deficit in the reports that are coming in, especially from Ugandans who experience some of this corruption firsthand. Don't
you think that sometimes people do not report because they think, like you said, that this has been normalized, they have nowhere to go, and they just don't report? Because we have also seen cases where people have been reported and they have served time, or the cases are ongoing. I'll give you an example of the most recent incident of corruption, where mabati that was meant, or iron sheets that were meant for the Karamoja sub-region, were diverted by people in public offices. And as we know right now, some of the cases are still ongoing in court. So could it be that we think that nothing is going to be done, that we are not reporting, yet in the event that we could probably report and there is evidence, something could be done?
No, you see, the worry is the fact that we only have very few cases and we can name them by our fingertips clearly shows you where we are in relation to the fight against corruption. And yet we know these cases. When you look at the numbers, they ideally show that 17% are very confident. Out of the 100, 17% are confident.
Confident of what?
Of addressing the issue of corruption, or to come out and report corruption tendencies. These are, let's say, this represents the 17% of the level-headed people who
with integrity,
who would prefer having a smooth line into life.
Who will want a driving permit and decide to do it the right way. Who will want a passport and decide to do it the right way.
That if you're to arrest them on the road for anything, they want you to arrest them for the rightful reason, not just because you need the money. And then there is a 80% somewhere of people who fear retaliation and then certain consequences. Now, I think this is where we come into what you were saying, that now with the 81% and 17%, that means we have a 2% which is there.
In
between. So, but besides that, when you look at the issue as to why most of the Ugandans, I wouldn't want to say they are comfortable with not reporting, but it goes back to the lawlessness of the society now that we've actually try to uplift. Yeah, it's more like we're uplifting this kind of situation, because if in a situation where we've seen cases like the Mabati issue, where government officials were put before court, they actually went on to, they were actually even remanded to prison.
Yes.
This ideally shows you that it can work. But however, most of the Ugandans who are seeing these these cases of corruption have this element that, what if I go out and report? What will happen if I do not have, regardless of whether I have the evidence, what if I go out and report, and then after reporting, the same person comes out with, comes out of police or comes out of the prison after buying those in power? There is that particular question.
So the other question would be, is there enough political backing when it comes to anti-corruption? The agencies that are against corruption, or the anti-corruption agencies, do they have enough political backing to ensure that corruption is actually ripped out of our country?
Well, the backing is there as of now, because when you look at how the IGG is very strategic, especially this year, she's working on so many cases. And she has been able to go through, however much people are still questioning on the issue to do with auditing.
Lifestyle
auditing. But it's something that the IGG's office, I should say, has been very, very, they've actually been pushing for it. Why? Because they've come to realize that we are normalizing the corruption. But however, when you look at the capacity levels, it is being undermined by us, the Ugandans. And I'll tell you why. Like the examples you used, it's more like if you're going out there to access a service and you feel the only way to access it quickly is for you to buy it or to pay someone for it, then that means you're contributing to the society and you're shaping the society to start thinking like you, or to start thinking that way. That is why even when you use public transport, you realize most of the taxi drivers who have their taxis in a dangerous mechanical condition, they will definitely having a 2,000, 5,000 shilling note.
Oh, the officer stops them and then the driver goes out and then they talk for some time.
For some time. And there was a time I was traveling to the eastern side of Uganda where I did use a taxi, and the driver came out and said, after coming back, he did say, I was giving the traffic officer 5,000 and he asked me, what are you going to give the others you'll meet in front? So by that, it was like he was preparing him
that there is more ahead.
So there is more ahead.
And that giving them bribes is a common business.
It's common business for them. So you get to realize that it's something that we've normalized. So it becomes very difficult for anyone to even report, because you will feel guilty at the end of the day. There are people who actually feel guilty that, what if I go and report, then after reporting, the person I've reported will come and pay off their justice. So it is a cycle that is very difficult to break as of now, unless we go back to the roots.
Unless we go back to the roots. And the question we are asking today is, why is it that Ugandans are not comfortable reporting corruption cases? You can join this conversation through WhatsApp number 0709 602 592. Now, Ronald Rushere says, corruption in Uganda is like AIDS, it has no cure. Yes, yet you see Parliament has new vehicles, each costing 700 million shillings. I don't know how true this is for the ex-speakers since independence, yet we don't have enough service delivery. Well, like we said earlier, some people...
Yeah, it was actually
700 million per car. Okay. Now, moving on, this one says, this is a retired captain, Chitaka Mayanja from Chiboga, and he says, how are you all UBC buying these? How are you all at UBC? And he says, in this case of what you call corruption, it's wrong corruption. Corruption means you give small things to someone to let you free where you have gone wrong. But people swindling government funds, these are thieves, not corrupt. It gives a simple word: let's wake up and report them. Thank you, Captain Mayanja. And moving on, Bernard from Kachura says the only problem is that we don't have anywhere to report corrupt officials, because police were ranked #1 in Uganda via corruption. Another problem is that government doesn't listen to people. Government listens, that's why the IJJ is always asking people to report corruption cases. Maybe the issue, like you said, is that people don't know where to report. And he says corruption has affected most of the lives of Ugandans. For example, medicine is sometimes mishandled in government hospitals, and he says that sometimes it takes you long to get a certain government document like a national ID. And here the case is usually people know the right ways to get these documents. For instance, a national ID, you know, you go to NIRA offices and get yourself registered. But in most cases, like Sonko put it, we Ugandans, we decide to embolden corrupt officials by giving them money so that we get our documents quickly. And fighting corruption is a collective effort for all of us as Ugandans. You cannot say government is corrupt when you're the one who is giving someone money to get you your passport as fast as possible. Lately, I don't think that's even possible. So if you pay someone money to do that for you, you are actually going to lose that money. So that's all we could do. We could have a conversation on corruption, but keep the conversation going, and stay tuned on Good Morning Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Nejama, and I've been with Chantal Olive Akandinda and Jerome Paul Sonko.
Of the day on UBC. was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial star 165 star 3 hash or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala. We have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
The cardinal role of a government is maintaining law and order, safeguarding citizens' rights and providing essential public goods and services. Throughout its tenure, the government has consistently upheld these principles. This foundation creates an environment conducive to delivering crucial social services to citizens through diverse approaches such as taxation, strategic budgeting, and effective policy implementation. A transformative education system, advancing healthcare provisions, enhancing social welfare, and propelling infrastructure growth, all of which continue to evolve daily to cater to the population's expectations. Supported by a meticulously organized network of ministries, government remains committed to serving its citizens. Coming soon on your public broadcaster, The Front Bench, your interface with the government every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with Joram Paul Sonko, only on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. My name is Irene Alena Misang, and welcome to the GMU Tourism Express. It is our mandate to take you through Uganda, take you through the travel world in Uganda's tourism, East Africa, that is Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, and DRC. And it is the Christmas time. It is the 19th of December. We only have 5 days to Christmas, and you're already in the Christmas mood. I don't know about you, but as for me, I'm already in the Christmas mood, and this is the time when everyone calls, almost every call that you get, it is the first thing you get is Oliwa. Where are you? People need to know. Are you traveling? Are you going maybe back to your home village? Are you going somewhere for safari? Are you going to have that romantic holiday maybe at Limara Wild Waters? People want to know where you are, but it is interesting somehow how Ugandans are really picking up now to travel their own country. Gone are the days when people only used to travel to maybe Dubai, Zanzibar, they wanted to go to Mombasa for the holiday times, but now people are just like, last time my neighbor was telling me that her and her boyfriend are going, maybe they are going to Rainforest Park, a safari lodge in Mawira Forest. But I thought that is interesting to see that Ugandans are now picking up to explore their own country and now embracing the beauty that we have in our very own country. And then another friend of mine told me that her and her husband, they have already booked 2 nights at some beaches in Entebbe. That is interesting. My friend, where are you going? You know, I remember those days when we were young, we used to serve like the whole community food. You prepare a bunch of food at home, then during lunchtime your mom gives you food, take it to the neighbor. You take to the neighbor the food, and then the neighbor also gives you food, you take it back home. It was an exchange of different things, happiness. We are all merry as the community, as neighbors. But now we can make it different. We can travel somewhere as maybe a family, as a neighborhood. Actually, in my neighborhood, we are planning a trip, but just as the neighbors, and that is amazing. That is the Uganda you want to have. Those are the Ugandans we want to have, those that explore their own country, those that explore their own beauty, and together you can all become proud of our country after having seen all that we have. Well, today we are still taking you through the diverse attractions that Murchison Falls National Park has. Like, you know, this is Uganda's largest park, and it has so many attractions, away from the falls that we are all used to, away from the wildlife that we are all used to. There is a lot that you can really see in Murchison Falls National Park. And today we traversed through the Albert Nile. The Albert Nile is a stretch of tranquil water that flows from Lake Albert. It flows 130 miles from Lake Albert, stretching to South Sudan, where it becomes the Al Jabal River. But flowing from Lake Albert is the second largest lake in Uganda that we have. And when the Albert Nile, that part of the Nile River, you know, River Nile is the longest river in Africa, and that part of the river flowing from Lake Albert reaching South Sudan is called the Albert Nile. This sector of the Nile crosses through Pakwach district, where it bisects Murchison Falls National Park into two banks. That is the northern bank and the southern bank. But whichever bank you're staying in, every space of the park is amazing. And Albert Nile, just as an attraction in the park, it has so many wildlife species around it. You can spot giraffes, elephants, buffaloes, and so many animals that come along the river banks for drinking water, but also those that are moving around the bushes that are around the park. Also, Albert Nile is a home to a wide species of birds, making it a very beautiful spot for bird watching. And when we talk about bird watching, that is something that is really going to blossom. It is like a time bomb, because this activity is really so much picking up worldwide, and so many people are getting interested in birds to study them. And the Albert Nile is one of those beautiful spots where you can spot a wide variety of species, bird species. And the most unique one here that you can spot here is the short-billed stork. This short-billed stork is mostly known in Mabamba wetland, but you can also spot it here on the Albert Nile. Still, Albert Nile as an attraction in Murchison Falls National Park, it has so many activities that you can engage in. Talk about the boat cruise to the bottom of the falls. Talk about canoeing. Wow, canoeing is the best experience I can have here. Like being in those small boats, just sailing on the lake, sailing on the Albert Nile, and just having that cold breeze around you, soothing your skin. Like, it is amazing. You just need to be here. You can engage in bird watching, sightseeing. The scenery here never gets old, like watching the green scenery around the lake, the blue sky. Like, forget about this hustle and bustle in Kampala when you need to rest. If you need to get off the normal days, like this is the holiday time and you need to rest from your normal life, you need to go somewhere like close to the Albert Nile. And when we talk about accommodation to this place, the surrounding of the Albert Nile has so many beautiful, lovely and luxurious accommodation facilities. Talk about the Para Safari Lodge, Chobe Safari Lodge, Baker's Lodge. Like, all these places are amazing, and they give you the comfort nights. They give you comfort nights. They give you the beautiful sightseeing spots. They give you the meals that you need. The services there are amazing, and you just need to be here in these places. You just need to be in Murchison Falls. And while there, please note, most of the people, when you go to Murchison Falls National Park, you're only taken to the falls, Murchison Falls, which is an amazing thing, but you're also maybe taken for game drive. It is also amazing, but please tell your tour operator or whoever is taking you there that do not ignore the Albert Nile for you to explore. It is ours to explore. About that travel tip today, still, just like I always say, that we are here to give you travel tips that are very easy for you to remember every time you're packing your backsuit in your bedroom or in your sitting room to go for that trip. Now, like, it is holiday time, if you're going maybe to see family, if you're going to see friends, as you're packing that bag, just have maybe a small first aid kit. You never know what happens along the way. I remember the first times that I used to travel, I used to get food poisoning like all the time, every time I go out, but I learned to travel with some maybe magnesium tablets. I don't know what works for you, but you can go with a painkiller. Sometimes it gets so strenuous to move around in the trips, and you just need a painkiller maybe to cure off that headache that you're getting after a very long day. So just move with a first aid kit. containing whatever you need. Maybe you could get small wounds and you need a plaster. They are very, very simple things that you can move with. Thank you so much. That is all that we had for you today. And thank you for staying with us all the time, taking you around Uganda. See you.
Well, Alan, I did have a question for you today. This is in relation to a conversation I saw yesterday. It was hitting up on the X app, where most Ugandans were sharing their experiences with touring Uganda or exploring Uganda. One thing I didn't like about it was a certain individual did reveal that tour sites in Uganda are very expensive, and that is why most of them opt for Zanzibar. They opt for Dubai. Now my question was, looking at the charges of most of these tour sites, or let's say the parks, the reserves, the lodges up country, I don't have it in mind that most of these places are really expensive, as these people are saying. Or is it rather lack of love for their country, or lack of knowledge, information of the tour sites in the country? Also, there is something that was mentioned, that most of the tour sites in Uganda do not have reviews online. So that is why most of the people are afraid of going to tour or visit them. How true of a statement will that be?
First of all, talking about the prices of the accommodation facilities in Uganda, when you talk about attractions like entering any Uganda National Park, for Ugandan it is 25,000, and some parks it is 20,000. So really that is cheap.
True.
But maybe the accommodation facilities, that is where it becomes a little bit expensive. But these are privately owned facilities. You cannot determine for them the prices that they do for their hotels. Maybe depending on whatever the investment that they've had, the taxes that they pay, that is what they use to do the prices for their accommodation. But again, when you talk about maybe a trip to Dubai, it is about 3.5 or 4.5 for 5 days. And this can do you a trip to Lemala White Waters, like 2 or 3 days, it can cost you like 1.2. Really, which one is more expensive than the other? Maybe Ugandans have not so much embraced their beauty in our country, and they still think that, like I told you earlier, that Ugandans think if they go for a trip, ngenze kuchakala, I've gone to have like kuchakala to eat my money. But when you go to a national park, a Ugandan doesn't feel that excitement. Like
so we are not adventurous as we claim to be.
So it becomes more fun for them to go to maybe Dubai, where they're going to just have those luxurious experiences. But here we have more of the natural experiences, which Ugandans also have to embrace. And probably tour operators also to bring up more diverse opportunities. Now, like TripAddicts had the silent disco on the bus, to make Ugandans get that feel that they want to have as they go for trips. Yeah.
But also I want to believe some of the Ugandans are only getting excited about moving out of this country, to go out there, to create content and get the bragging rights that I've been to Zanzibar, I've been to Diani, or I've been to Dubai. Name them.
Yeah.
But at times you also realize, we've seen people exploring Uganda and going to different attraction centers, and they're definitely having a good time as well, especially those who are highly adventurous and love touring the country. But that aside, that's it from the world of tourism with Alan this morning. It's now time for me to give you what is making headlines from the world of business. I am Jerome Paul Sonko. Now we'll be starting off with the transport charges. Tax operators under the umbrella organization Uganda Taxi Operators Federation want to meet Ministry of Transport officials to make a consensus on the fares to be charged during the Christmas festive season. During such a time is when you do realize most of the transport fares continue heating up, or they are being hiked up, especially because most of the Ugandans are traveling away from the city, going up country to celebrate the festive days, or to celebrate Christmas, Boxing Day, or even New Year's Day. So it's always a long week away from the capital, where most of the Ugandans are away. And those in the transport sector believe this is a time where they have to make some good money out of it. However, when you look at the development, it is actually coming after the members of parliament raised concerns over exorbitant transport fares by the motorist routes of Uganda ahead of the Christmas season. Most of them tend to hike these transport fares simply because they know it is the season when Ugandans are willing to spend some good money. So when a Ugandan is willing to go back home or to their ancestral home, they will definitely have to pay a lot of money. So the transport people, or those in the transport business, utilize such a season to make good money, because they do know in January there will be less travels, especially away from the country, and because they also know or believe that Ugandans will not be spending as much as they spend in the month of December. Now the taxi operators will come up with official with an official's fares chart to be communicated to the public after a meeting with the Ministry of Transport official due tomorrow, Wednesday the 20th. So they will sit down with the ministry, set up uniform fares. For example, if you're moving from here to Kamuli, this amount; from Kampala to Mbale, this amount; if you're heading to Gulu, if you're heading to Mbarara, if you're heading to Kabale. I think we've been able to see most of these particular charges with the buses or the coaches business. When you look at those, for example, the global kind of buses that normally take people to Mbarara and Western Uganda. So when you look at all of that, it is the kind of situation that the taxis are also coming up to generalize or make uniform transport costs, so that those who are traveling can have a uniform cost, whether they are using a certain taxi or not. Now also, when you look at the other information coming up from the world of business, let's look at the holiday festivities. Now MTN Uganda partnered with different religious and secular entities to bring the Christmas cheer to their customers this holiday season. And Christmas only 6 days away, now 5 days, and then also New Year's Day only 10 days away. You get to realize in the spirit of giving back, most of the companies in Uganda do what you could definitely call the corporate social responsibility, and of which this is where MTN is joining 7 religious denominations as well as other secular events, that is inclusive of those in the entertainment world, to ensure that Ugandans enjoy Christmas. We've seen most of the companies, by the way, telecommunications companies. We've also seen those companies dealing in alcoholic beverages getting into such times, sponsoring or partnering with different entities to ensure that Ugandans are getting money, rather are getting good time, especially during the festive season. Though the bigger question is, in most cases, is how beneficial is it to the Ugandans? Because at times you do realize, however much these companies also get into the corporate social responsibilities, at times it's a win-win for the both of them. It's a 50-50 kind of advantage for them. A company puts in money as well as having expectations at a certain event. For example, if it is a Christmas kind of event, if it's a Boxing Day sort of event, New Year's Day, 31st, they still get something out of these particular partnerships. But well, it is time for Christmas, and it now starts, it's ideally feeling a lot more like Christmas as we are approaching the day within 5 days time. Lastly, from business this morning, we take a look at the forex market to see how the forex market, or how different currencies were faring or trading by close of business Monday evening. Well, the US dollar did open at 3,765.50 shillings, while selling was 3,775.50. While at the closing time, the US dollar was buying at 3,765.04, while selling at 3,775.04. Then looking further, the Great Britain pound, it was buying at 4,778.58, while selling at 4,791.28. The euro was buying at 4,109.54, while selling at 4,120.54. Then the Kenyan shilling was buying at 24.51 while selling at 24.57. The Tanzanian shilling was buying at 1.50 while selling at 1.50. And then the South African rand was buying at 206.01 while selling at 206.56 shillings in the same space. So that is how you will find the forex market this Tuesday morning. That's it for the GMU business update this morning. Coming up is the traffic updates with Olive Monica Najum.
Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a part of Good Morning Uganda, all the way from 6:30 to this minute. And we are still going up to 9 a.m. this morning. Now, we would like to give you traffic updates as of this morning, especially if you're coming from the areas of Munyonyo and Bunga. But first, there is an alert from Kampala Capital City Authority. And it says, having completed drainage works at the Bunga Soya Culvert Crossing, we are embarking on road works at this section. The section will be closed by from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. daily starting Tuesday, which is today, 19th December, to Friday, 22nd December 2023. Motorists are advised to consider using Lukuli as an alternative route for uninterrupted traffic flow. We apologize for the inconvenience, and this is from Kampala Capital City Authority. So if that's the area you're coming from, you have been alerted. Now, coming back to our traffic updates this morning, we are still going to look at the same route, that is Gaba Road, and see how traffic is this morning. Now, starting from Wavamuno Road, as it joins the main Gaba Road, we see that there is a bit of a stretch of a traffic jam that is starting to build, joining the main Gaba Road from Wavamuno. So even those going the side of Wavamuno Road, you will encounter a bit of traffic at this point while going to Munyonyo. But now continuing on Gaba Road, heading to the sides of Kansanga, Bunga, Kabalagala. Let's see how traffic is this morning. Now, as you can see on your screen, where Basimwe Fred Road joins Gaba Road, there is a bit of traffic there that has started to hold up, but continuing ahead, there are green zones across, and there is smooth flow of traffic. So if you're coming from Prince Badru Road, you're going to find that there is smooth flow of traffic from that side. Now, continuing ahead, I see traffic coming through from Gaba TTC Road, and it's quite a long stretch, and it is joining the main Gaba Road. And of course, continuing with Gaba Road itself, there is a smooth flow of traffic on the main road, which is quite pleasing news for anyone traveling in the morning. Now, still going with Gaba Road, we see still the feeder roads like Buziga Road, Lubowa MC1 Road. They are all clean, and there is a smooth flow of traffic over there. Continuing ahead, I see Byakuleka Road also has smooth flow of traffic this morning, and still going forward, there is still smooth flow of traffic along Gaba Road. Now, around the area that has Chibale Road joining Gaba Road, there is a bit of traffic coming through, but nothing to be worried about. Ahead, there is a bit of an orange zone, but still it is not so big, so you should be able to move and continue ahead smoothly. Still continuing with the same road, we see that the green zones continue, a few orange zones here and there. Now, if you're just joining us, orange zones usually indicate that traffic jam is starting to build up, but it's not at a level of intensity where you can't move. You will just be slowed down for a bit. Now, there is a bit of traffic coming in from Soweto Road joining the main Gaba Road, but from Chuafu Road there is smooth flow of traffic still feeding into Gaba Road as of this morning. Still continuing ahead, Gaba Road today is in a good place. There is no traffic around this area, and of course I see Muyenga Road also coming through and feeding into the main Gaba Road. Senyonga Road is also looking good. There is a little bit of an orange zone around here, and of course I see a bit of traffic that is starting to build from Nsambya Estate Road as it joins Gaba Road. And for those coming in from Muyenga side, there is smooth flow of traffic over there. Now around this area where these roads interconnect, there is a bit of traffic jam that has started to build up, and ahead still on Gaba Road there is a bit of traffic jam that is starting to build up where Gaba Road joins Nsambya Estate Road up ahead, but still continuing with where Nsambya Road joins Mukwano Road. We see that there is smooth flow of traffic over there, but at that roundabout ahead I see some intense red zones over there. So if that's where you're headed, you should know that if you are to use Mukwano Road as it brings you to Jinja Road, you are good to go. There is smooth flow of traffic, but if you're going the other opposite side, you're going to encounter a bit of traffic at this roundabout that comes from Clock Tower side going to Nsambya Road. Now looking at the middle of town, from that roundabout I see there is a traffic jam that is heading up to the side of Nasa Road, crossing through, and it is intense as Nasa Road joins Duster Street. There you will be held up. Now looking at Market Street, there is also intense traffic over there, but as you move ahead to join Loam Street, you're going to find smooth flow of traffic. Now looking at Kampala Road, there is a smooth flow of traffic on one end, especially for people that are heading the side of Jinja Road, but for those coming to the city, you may encounter a few delays here and there because the traffic jam in the middle of the city is starting to build up. Now still looking at some of the roads within the city, looking at Chimathi Avenue, there is smooth flow of traffic there, but other roads are looking a bit orange. Around Nile Avenue I see orange zones indicative of traffic jam that is building up in this area. So as you are moving around the city center, you need to choose your route carefully. Now looking still at Kampala Road, the orange zones continue up until you reach Bombo Road, and here there is a traffic jam that is starting to build if you're going to the sides of Wandegea. But still I've not seen intense red zones as of this morning in different parts of the city, but we don't know yet, because later on in the day as people try to move and travel up country, traffic jam may actually be in areas that are outside the city. You may find traffic jam build up in areas like Seta, Mukono. Later on in the day you might find traffic jam build up in areas like Matuga, Obusega, and of course Chibuye. So we need to think about our routes and even the times that we are moving, especially this being the festive season. Many people hit the road at the same time, and this is usually in the afternoon and later on in the evening. But from us at Good Morning Uganda, we continue to wish you a Merry Christmas and a beautiful festive season. Good Morning Uganda continues. We have agenda coming up next.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year!
of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso, every Wednesday live in our studios in the heart of Kampala. We have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
All on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
The cardinal role of a government is maintaining law and order, safeguarding citizens' rights and providing essential public goods and services. Throughout its tenure, the government has consistently upheld these principles. This foundation creates an environment conducive to delivering crucial social services to citizens through diverse approaches such as taxation, strategic budgeting, and effective policy implementation. A transformative education system, advancing healthcare provisions, enhancing social welfare, and propelling infrastructure growth, all of which continue to evolve daily to cater to the population's expectations. Supported by a meticulously organized network of ministries, government remains committed to serving its citizens. Coming soon on your public broadcaster, The Front Bench, your interface with the government every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with Joram Paul Sonko, only on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
When you go to the book of John, chapter 3, verses 16, the Bible says that, so God loved the world and he gave us his begotten son. I've come to speak about Christmas. Why Christmas is celebrated. Why do you celebrate Christmas? I, as Liz, why do I celebrate Christmas? Yes, these are some of the reasons why we celebrate. First, God loved us so much. Katonda yalabanga ensi eyonoonye nnyo ekyamazima twali bakuzikirira nze wamu naawe twali bakuzikirira twali bakuggwaawo naye lwaki Katonda yalabanga ensi tesobola kusigala nga njereere n'atwagala nnyo n'atuweereza omwana we omu yekka Yesu Kristo asobole okujja okutufiira nze wamu naawe. Lwaki Kristo yajja? Ekyamazima yajja to restore back life, to restore back the world, to restore back the human. Katonda yagala nnyo omuntu. Wogenda mu lubereberye Bible egamba nti Katonda yatonda omuntu mu kifaananyi kye. Kati never wanted us to lose our life. Kyovola agamba nti kansindika omwana wange. Ate no ne Yesu yatwagala n'akkiriza ne yeewaayo n'azaalibwa omwana w'omuntu Mariyamu. Kati okwewaayo okwo Kristo yatwagala nnyo 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 nnyo. Kati tusinziirako gwe mukwano Kristo gwe yatulaga n'akkiriza okuzaalibwa. Ate nno yazaalibwa mu kifo eky'omwana w'omuntu tusaawe ne bagamba nti genda ozaayire mu kiraalo gye baamuzaayira, ayinza obutakikkiriza. Naye tuselebrating nga tujjukira amazaalibwa ga Kristo nti yeewaayo n'akkiriza n'ajja n'afulibwa mu mubiri n'azaalibwa nze wamu naye tubeere ne bulamu. Ab'emikwano abaagalwa, nze ŋŋaze Pastor Liz mbaagaliza Christmas ennungi. Yokaana atugamba tuleze amakubo gaffe nga tulindirira omwana oyo okuzaalibwa munda mu mitima gyaffe. Tulina okubeera nga tutambula bulungi, tulina okwagala bannaffe nga Kristo yatwagala ne yeewaayo, nga Katonda kitaffe yatwagala n'akkiriza n'awaayo omwana we omu yekka, naffe twagale bannaffe. Kati njogera gy'oli abadde alina obusungu ku mutima, tokkiriza omwana okuzaalibwa mutima gwo nga gujjudde obukaawo, gujjudde obusungu. Nedda, abange Christmas eno nnungi, Christmas etujjukiza birungi byerere, Christmas ereeta emirembe munda mu mitima gyaffe. Tandika obulamu obujja, nono Kristo kuzaalibwa. I believe you are a changed person. You are a new person. I believe that God loves you so much. And it's my prayer for you tonight. May God continue to prosper you, to bring joy into your life. In the mighty name of Jesus, I love you, and I remain as Pastor Liz from Loveworks Church.
Junko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, it is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Junko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, many thanks for sticking around to Good Morning Uganda this very morning. It's time for us to get into the Good Morning Uganda agenda. Our topic of conversation this morning is rotating around the land issue, land grabbing in Uganda, as something that has become a very, very huge topic of concern for a time that we have actually been alive. But besides that, you get to realize that land is a very vital aspect of life, because humanity itself does depend on it for existence. In one of the books I've been reading recently, it was actually identified that when you look at the emergence of capitalism in the United States, looking back at how land was handled, for example, in the West, was that anyone who would own a piece of land would ideally be recognized in society as a rich and wealthy person. It is still the same case today. And for the US kind of situation, back in the time, it was if you wanted to own land, the only way you would own land is if you could show enough responsibility that you would develop that land and make it more productive. That is a book that goes by Money, How Much is Too Much Money. It's a very interesting book that talks about land, capitalism, and the like. But besides that, in Uganda today, the land issue. If I'm to just give you a brief background of the same situation that happened yesterday, with the allegations that came through on the 18th of December at around, that was on Sunday, rather on Monday, it is actually that the land belonging to one Kalisa of the same area, Chibale LC1, Chigumba Parish, Madu SC, Gomba District, and a group of around 50 people armed with sticks, panga, spears attacked another group of people who claimed the same land belonging to them and ended up killing a gentleman known as Sobi in the same. So when you look at also that particular background, you get to realize that the land issue has become a very, very concerning situation for Uganda, or we are heading into a concerning situation in regards to land grabbing. There are a number of deaths that are actually being registered due to such scenarios where people are fighting for land. There are cases where Ugandans themselves who own this particular land end up losing it to people who are armed simply because they do not have the power to keep that land. Now, that is how important land and how valuable land is. But as we talk matters land grabbing, the bigger question is, how have we reached here and how are we going to get out of the same? Because it does seem like a situation that is out of hand. More of these conversations as we are having this, you can as well share your opinions on our WhatsApp as we continue having this conversation with Chirao Robert Nyonyintono, who is on set this morning as we discuss more of the land issue in Uganda. Chirao, the land issues, land grabbing would be the better word to use, because if we talk land issues, it goes way beyond. But when we be more specific to land grabbing, how are we in such a circumstance whereby there is less security of land, however much the government is also pushing for people to go in and seek for their land titles?
First, we must accept that land has been a problem of the entire world. Even during biblical days, land was a problem because the major factor of production. However, the situation has been worsened in the last 2 decades or 3 decades for Uganda's case. But we know countries that have fought for over and over because of small pieces of land. Uganda and Kenya once had the Mijingo Island issue.
Another battle.
Just that it was handled better.
Diplomatically.
Diplomatically. So land has, the question of land now, what is making it worse is illegal evictions or land grabbing. We must understand that we have a number of various land tenure systems in Uganda. One would think that customary land was very safe. You've seen how His Excellency has come up over that, where we've seen the Balalo in northern Uganda, where they don't have mile land, but they have customary. Leasehold, even that has become a problem. We've seen issues where someone obtained a lease, it is expired and all that. Freehold, almost all the various land tenure systems now have issues in our country. Though more would look at the private and mile land. Now, what do we call illegal evictions? Illegal evictions, that means that someone illegally removes people from land and occupies that particular piece of land. It is not their own land, or it could be their own land, because you can have a land title, but you're not an occupant of that land.
True.
My grandfather in Kasoga Kakuto Masaka, in his will, gives me 15 acres of land. I transfer those 15 in my name. I have the land title, but I've never, in 10 years I go to Kakuto once.
So you've not been following up?
And he tells me from here, down there, that is your land. I even got a surveyor. But there are people occupying that land.
And at times, during such times, they give you sticks. You know, grandparents normally use sticks to
from
point.
Here to there. But if you have to get a land title, of course, you have to survey, and then.
True.
So now I know that this is my land. So I own the land.
But there are already some.
But there are people there. So even if I'm the owner of the land and I don't go through the right procedures,
then you're evicted
to remove those people from that land, it is an illegal eviction. Because government of Uganda clearly stipulates and looks at the various forms of ownership of land and how best in case one has to vacate. We had an amendment and it stipulated that it is okay, you can be a landlord. You can have your land title, the owner of that land. But if that land has people living on them, the common word that people understand is vibanja owners, that you cannot remove these people by force. The law is clear. You give them an opportunity to buy ownership, what people call okwegula. That they come, you're their landlord, they recognize you, then they buy off, you give them the first chance. If they fail, they can decide to sell you that land, that chibanja, then you pay them, and they go to another area. Or if that fails, you can still sell because you've given them the opportunity, but they don't have the money. I can still sell my land to Sonko, but I introduce Sonko to these people as their new landlord. Now Sonko will have his land title, but Sonko has no powers to evict these people. They have to continue paying to him what His Excellency usually refers to in the military as a salute. That's a token one would call obusuru. But you don't remove these people. But even then the law is clear. If they want to sell their chibanja, they have to first notify you if you express interest. And you say, well, I'm a chibanja owner, I want to sell my chibanja. I tell my landlord Sonko that I want to sell my chibanja and go. I need money. So Sonko will pay me, I go. Or if Sonko doesn't have the money, I'll sell my chibanja, but introduce the new person to Sonko to continue paying the annual fee. Now failure, and the laws are very clear, is when you can say, now leave this land. Now, why we are having the land problem is population is increasing, but the land is not increasing. That is one. So there is so much pressure for people to own land, yet we are still having the same land. That is why now we are having so much of what they call land fragmentation. That Chirabo has 10 sons, he has 10 acres, he passes on, every son wants to get an acre. So the land is not increasing. But also, why we are having another problem is there are people who have embezzled money, stolen money. And the safest way to hide this money is through land.
It's more like money laundering.
Because Sonko, I won't be able to take this money in the bank.
So I'll have to purchase.
I won't be able to keep this money home. Because I know when CID, they will come, they will search, they will discover this money. The things you say, there are people who have monies, they take people to fumigate. The best way to hide this money is in land. That is why you will see that land has attained so much value. Rator has stolen his money. He has stolen government's billions of money. Now, he's going to pay whatever cost for land. And what he will do, Ratoro will come and will buy land from you, or he's going to use a one Sonko to buy this land. Then after buying that land, through it is transferred in Sonko's names, then they sit somewhere with these lawyers and witnesses, you draft a sales agreement to me. You sell the land to me. But practically, we see Ratoro. So I'm hiding my money because I know land does not depreciate. It just attains more value. So in the bad times, that is why you find that many people die and we know them as tycoons. And within a twinkle of an eye, they have just been managers of property. But the actual owner has now taken over. Here, so and so, this property has been taken. No. People steal money and they hide money in land. So, land gains value.
And with time.
And it becomes a very expensive commodity.
True, with time.
Because I have so much, I want to spend it no matter how much money you're telling me. Because I must hide this money. These issues of real estate, one time I think it was the Financial Monitoring Authority that released areas where there is money laundering and all, and in real estate, You hear a company so and so. He's buying here, he's buying there. This site is open. They're hiding stolen money. Now, when this man comes in an area where land was at 10 million an acre, he's willing to give 40 million an acre.
Because he doesn't have where to put that money at.
Yes.
True.
And he believes that in a period of maybe 30 years, he's out of government or anything, this land will have reached the 40 million plus that he bought it.
By that time, true.
Now, the value of land in that area tremendously shoots up. So, because of this, land has attained value. The pressure is there, but also this kind of unchecked corruption. Now, the problem is worsened with the fact that we've failed to tame these illegal evictions. Because such people do not even want to find out the actual owner. They don't have time to cross-check. So when you steal $1 billion and they tell you're not going to do what they call due diligence on that land, because you know, for me, let me purchase, we shall battle in court, we shall do everything, and I'll take possession of that land, come rain, come sunshine. Now, government has tried but failed because, number one, the very people sometimes would be preventing this are the same people in. I want to give you 2 incidents. One, and I know in the mind of many Ugandans, you remember a commission headed by Justice Catherine Bambugemereire just years back here.
It was very active when it comes to the
cases
Iron Lady. And all the judges who are on the panel as well.
My good friend Mr. Sebunya was on this team. I was fortunate to have some time to interact with them when they were meeting the media and various platforms. But there is a statement that one time Justice Catherine made, and I'll never forget it. She said, we need to know the name behind the names.
We need to know the name behind
because she had been given authority. You know? She thought she was going to perform the miracles. But what she met in the field, she understood that she wasn't merely dealing with the chiravos of this world. There was something bigger. And she said, in certain incidents, you would find the same people, a clique, the same people, almost in every fracas. So she said, if you want to conclude, we need to find, but for this particular case, who is that real person behind? It is very hard for poor people to carry out illegal evictions in this country. It is very hard for people who are not connected with the law to carry out illegal evictions in this country. It is those that have
money,
those that are connected, that carry out these illegal evictions. That is why even Sobi meeting his death, there's been a tendency of people hiring these criminals. Sobi came out and said, I've formed a company. If you want to take over land, you hire us.
Then we do the job for you.
We occupy that land. We create lawlessness
in the area
that no one can take possession. So if I wanted to steal your land, Sonko, this is what this group, they call them Bakanyama. If I wanted to steal your land, Sonko, I would say fine. Sonko, you will go to court, court will issue whatever. Then I'll pick these goons. That even when police, there's a story that the RDC Kasangati in Kataremwa interfaced with Sobi. These are people who know that first we shall take this land. These poor people in courts of law will be defeated. When it comes to police investigations, they will be defeated. And when it comes now to applying force, if they can't influence security forces, well, His Excellency has straightly warned them against participating in this. But unfortunately, some still do. Then they will use these gangs. They will come and knock houses at night, beat people. Then during the day, they occupy the land. And of course, after some time, the poor will give up.
True.
And their land will be taken. The law will not have protected them. State agencies will have failed. And that is why we shall continuously have these evictions in this country.
Well, and to the viewers out there, you can as well share your opinion and views on in relation to what should be done to end these forceful land evictions in the country, or to protect those particular people who own the land but do not have the authority or do not have the power to protect their land. And Robert, speaking of situations that have actually led us, because every year we are having over 100 cases, and these 100 cases are not
every
only
week
within,
we have a life lost,
exactly, due
or
to land grabbing or land
seriously,
evictions.
seriously brutalized, beaten, grievous harm.
Now this also gets me to a question of, is the law really protecting the landowners? Because in situations where we've seen a couple of times where we have 3 individuals or even more having the same land title, and all of the land titles are written in the respective names of the holders at the time. And then the question goes back to who is the rightful owner of the same. There are those who have been settled on that land for quite some time, and their families have also grown up within the, that particular vicinity. And then also you get to understand they feel like they're entitled to the land per se. And then even the land title says so, but a rich man somewhere comes out, a rich man or two come up with land titles that also show that they own the land. How is the law protecting the land owners here, the rightful land owners in question?
First, I must say, Uganda, among things where we are blessed, is we have very good laws as a country. The biggest challenge is implementation of these laws. That is the question. But if you're to look at our laws, almost in every sphere, we have the best, I must say, maybe the best laws. And many countries are benchmarking Uganda. The hurting thing is when they take our laws, they implement them to the letter. For us, we fail
at
to
the implementation
the law. For example, our law protects very well anybody on land. It protects the so-called Wibanja owners very well. There are even punishments that if you illegally evict this person, if you're convicted, you serve 7 years imprisonment. I must cross-check with Frank Baine how many people they have in Ruzira, Chitalia, that they are serving a sentence of 7 years because they illegally evicted people. Yet these are problems that happen every day. You may find that there is none. Now, laws are as good as nothing if they are not implemented. We have about 2 reasons why laws, or 3, fail, why implementation fails in this country. 1, the quickest is ignorance
of the law.
Of the law. We have very many people in this country that are ignorant of the land law. They don't know what the law says. That when someone comes to them, they think is doing them a favor. You know, someone comes and says, "Wano omugagga ayagalawo musirikale general wa UPDF." Even sometimes lying. Have you ever been a victim where there was a funny company because it had a J and a O in it? Came to my land and said, "You want to meet General so and so? This is his company. They want to take your land." I said, "I'm ready to meet the general." I went to find it was a city crook here who was never connected to the general, but his company was using because they had a J or then M somewhere. So, ignorance. And they were telling me, now, you see, you tosobola kukayana na general. Bakuwemu kye bakuwa.
He's a general.
You know? And the poor person, they're ignorant. They don't know what the law says.
No, it's when you identify a general in most scenarios,
ignorance
one is worried.
Because I wasn't placed anywhere next to a general in UPDF, but I knew the law.
True.
I was like, even if he's a general, let's sit on table. I tell him what we discuss. He's also human. He's not a liar. So one is ignorance. That people sometimes leave even the land, are evicted because of ignorance. I want to tell you, I've ever seen a scenario where people have been empowered and even a general could not evict them.
And also a quick one here. When you look at the Land Act 1998, subject to Article 237 of the Constitution, all land in Uganda shall vest in the citizens of Uganda and shall be owned in accordance with the following. There is with the following land tenure system. There is customary. I think that is where people...
Most so common in northern Uganda.
Exactly. Then there is freehold, there is Milo, and leasehold. So when you look at all those forms as a Ugandan...
My land is most of the problem. But we're still looking at issues why we see this. Two, away from ignorance, we have corruption. You know? Money.
The one with the bigger cake.
People...
is willing to take even more.
Yes. So... a police officer investigating is corrupted. Then away from corruption, we have another issue now called connections. You know? That it may not necessarily be money.
Yes.
But I can just pick up phone call and say, Comrade Sonko,
who's working in the Ministry of Lands and...
I'm interested in that land.
Urban development.
I just mentioned the word, I'm interested in that land.
And it's like, can we have a cup of coffee and discuss about
Please
it?
do me justice. I've not given you money. So Uncle Chirabo is interested. He will do all the nonsense.
So as Chirabo gets the land.
So that Chirabo, a comrade,
gets the land.
Hey, a comrade gets the land. So when you have ignorance, when you have corruption, and this issue of people who are connected, you cannot. It is very hard because the laws may fail to protect on those few areas, and you will still have issues of evictions. But also we have selective justice that deliberately the law is bent and not applying to all people equally.
So it is not as equal as it's meant to be. It goes back to the fact that you did mention, with the fact that there is a lot of lawlessness in the country, regardless of the fact that the laws being stipulated or that are stipulated in our constitution look so so fractured, or let's say well put out there, but the implementation is where we are failing at. We do have some comments coming up from different viewers on WhatsApp here. Peter from Kakira says, Kakira Ginger says, by now rich people take it all, the poor have no money to defend their land. He gives an example of his father who's battling with a plot that he received or inherited from the grandmother. when he was after it was handed to him, a certain lady came claiming that the land belongs to him, rather to her, and the case has been in court since 2015. We have that issue as well, where most of these cases are stuck in courts. And not only that, they normally, we've seen cases of land where after someone dies, let's say an elderly or let's say senior citizen dies, the one who has actually been settled on that land for quite some time, once they die, in the next few months or weeks, there erupts a new owner of the land who claims that the land belongs to them.
Now, the issue of land being technical here is that because you've been on someone's land for some time does not make you a bona fide occupant. Okay. We still have to see, how did you come to this land? Leave alone those after the constitution that are protected. If you're there 12 years back, there is a tendency of people thinking because we've been on this land for some time, therefore it is ours. But also there happens to be a challenge of the example I gave before, that we have absentee landlords or people who own land because they have the land titles, but they have never occupied this land. Now that is where most of the times challenges happen. That when Sonko, you die, you've had a Chirabo, a colleague you invited and said, you can be here. Sometimes there's even an agreement that you're here for 10 years. Or you can be cultivating, you can... Now, but when you pass on, that property is given to your son.
Yes,
who has studied somewhere, he doesn't even know your terms, so he says, I want to use my land.
Yet surprisingly, you had an agreement before you died.
Yes, because he has the document, it is his land legally. So there is a misconception sometimes, even this boy called Bibanja, the law doesn't protect those that are illegally there. You must be bona fide as described by the law. So that is where it comes, where the big challenge comes from. That sometimes people have gotten this tendency toward the kutakalino. We've been on this land, but how did you acquire this land? What were the terms? Are you the one that the law protects, or you're the one that is actually infringing on the rights of the landlord to that land?
And we do have Mwauka Moses, who says land grabbing is rampant, and the grabbers are even officials in our very government. So he feels the issue is out of hand if those who are supposed to protect us are the same people doing this, who are also leading in the land grabbing or land eviction. Twarirwana Robert Kasubi, in Kasubi rather, says that for me, the issue is that the government should put strict laws on those people who grab land. They should take them as criminals, as justice should prevail. Then he did say that in certain cases, people, they take... Oh, well, I don't understand what he was meaning
Maybe
here.
a quick one on that one who talked about government putting strict laws. If you read our laws very clear, as amended our Land Act, you're going to find out that we have very strict punishments. If a person illegally evicts, I want to use the word Chibanja that many of you know, the punishment that person must serve is about 7 years imprisonment. But when you have good laws and they fail to nab culprits, they cease to work. Because our laws are very clear that a person is presumed innocent until proven guilty by a competent court. Now, the process of proving guilty is where we get a problem. That you don't just come and say Chirabo grabbed our land. You must prove that Chirabo grabbed that land. And the biggest problem is that Chirabo will also have proof that legally purchased this land. Either through technicalities in the Ministry of Lands, through technicalities in investigations of police, through technicalities in court. Even these delays sometimes of these cases are not a result of case backlog, but technically someone knows that someone is going to lose interest over a period of time. There are many old men I've seen in Iruzira in prisons. They said they defiled young girls, you know. They trumped cases upon them. But it was all to ensure they steal their land. There's a case I was following. Yeah, this old man said this young girl came, knocked on my door. And as soon as she had just entered, people came, she was smeared with eggs. Then they said I had raped her, that people wanted to leech me, and I'm now on this case. So, getting evidence to convict a person, even things that happen broad daylight. Let me just remind you of that church in Endeavour. Everyone thought, them. Later we saw money to compensate.
Those who were evicted.
Not who were evicted. A person who broke down a church. And then on value, I think the price was high or the price was less. You know? But you would ask, in a layman's opinion, you would think, what is hard for someone to say you knocked down a church? But because when we go, the person says, no, I got this land from so-and-so, I purchased, these ones have refused to vacate, court
so
did this.
Yes.
That is why today we are seeing people resorting to mob justice.
In such situations, just like the case we had yesterday.
I had my late friend, General Kasiri Gwanga. He burnt an entire caterpillar that had gone to.
In one of his areas.
Because I take his sons. But you see, trickily, later when they demanded for the owner who sent, someone kept quiet. So, the laws are failing to work because they are failing to nab the victims of the technicalities. A person will come to a land, likes it, there are people there, you tell him, but no, you sell me the land, leave the rest to me. I'll find all ways to remove these people. How many sons did he leave? 9. Did he come? We shall find a way. So people are doing this with impunity because they know they will escape the wrath of the law, either through connections, through money, or even through intimidation, the ignorance of the people. When a group like Sobi's group comes to your piece of land, 50 goons.
You feel intimidated, you feel
you
worried.
wake up, they have been deployed there with the pangas, with the sticks.
And well, of course, when you look at it, the land issues in Uganda continue to be something out of, I don't know how I can actually put it, but it does remain something of huge concern because of the cases, like Tiraba has mentioned, every week there is a death reported. If it's not every week, or maybe after 2 weeks, you will definitely hear something. But at least every week, we are hearing cases of land evictions, of land grabbing, or land battles here and there, especially within the country. But of course, there are lots of issues leading to the same. Even when you look at family wrangles at times, stem from land as well.
Also, Sonko, before we leave this set, there's an area of concern that I've always had. You see, the land law as amended, there is something it didn't address fairly. And this is my personal opinion. And I know many landlords there will tell you that this issue of what we call ushuru, that someone on your land has to pay to you annually, is something we need to revise. Yes, I accept, like His Excellency has already said, that when a soldier salutes me, what do I gain? By such sign of respect. And we know that there is this belief that how did these people get land? They served our colonial masters, some of them were given land, but land had people. But then there are those that purchased this land. As long as, if I'm in Kampala today, Sonko, and my grandfather gave me 10 acres in Kasoga Kakuto, I have people on this land. They cultivate, they are rearing cattle, they are making money. And for me, annually, each of these people, because of the fares put there, gives me 5,000. You get it?
Sure.
5,000, no matter how big the portion of his land is having. then me as a landlord, I may not see value. So when someone comes and says that you sell me that land, I'll handle those on that land. I know how I'll deal with it, and I'll protect you. I'm very tempted to give in.
And
need to revise that.
well, of course, as we're coming to the end of our conversation this morning from our agenda, I do have a comment from Ojambo Solite who says the land grabbing issue, those who are supposed to protect us, like the police officers, are being bribed by the rich grand, land grabbers. So he feels those are the reasons behind the same. And then also we do have James Wakadala who says put a few of those bad officers, he terms them, who lead to this issue or who support the issue behind bars. And then lastly, Thomas from Bale, Wetoni says government has no intention to solve the land problem. And he asked where the Bagamerere effort did end. The efforts are still ongoing, Brother Thomas. But of course, the conversation does continue.
She gave a report, her findings. In a minute. She gave a report, and we are waiting because she did what she did and she presented the report.
Well, and that's it for our discussion here. But what I've actually picked out from the same, from what Chiraba has actually shared, is that you need to be very, you believe belongs to you or the land that is rightfully yours. But that is it for the agenda today. Coming up is sports with Ruben Pima. Stick around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala. We have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.